because I don't think that people are coming for gurus anymore. I think like people want to be a part of communities because they want to be around like-minded peers. And even the people that they're learning from, I don't think that they want to pedestalize people as much anymore. I think it's more of like, how do we all do this together? And people who like can curate good, just like good groups of people and empower people.
Welcome to Lumina Vanguard. I'm Tim Wolf. This is the show for the luminaries of the world, those people who are using their gifts to build transformational communities and innovations that change the world. Together, let's light the way to the future. I'm excited to have Matthew Cooke on the call, a very good friend of mine, founder of Body-Based Breakthrough, has over 15 years of experience working as an executive coach with leaders from Apple, SpaceX, Google, Disney, Pixar, certified in multiple somatic and trauma-informed methodologies, has developed his own system for really helping people achieve more without burning out, getting in touch with their nervous system. And I'm really excited to have him here today to talk about how we as community leaders and people who are showing up in big ways for our mission in the world and holding space for communities of people to transform. Really looking forward to getting his insight on quite a few things around that. So, Matthew has really had extensive training in a lot of somatic experiencing and other methodologies, and has personally shared his gifts with thousands of leaders around the world and trained, I think, over 100 coaches yourself. So, really excited to have you here today. Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
Thanks, Tim. It's always so funny. It's always a little embarrassing when you hear your own bio. It's like, oh gosh. But it's cool to also reflect and go, yeah, I've done some cool stuff. Thanks, man. Yeah, out of university, thinking back to when I was in my really early 20s, I worked for a tech company. We were building and you know this story well, Tim, but we were building the sort of Netflix for optimal living was the idea. So like personal development. And I was head of content curation, and I got to talk to 200 plus of the world thought leaders and everything from neuroscience to productivity to conscious business, conscious parenting, mindfulness, you name it. It was incredible. And unfortunately at 24 years old, I was working 70 plus hour work weeks. And I kept getting these dizzy, sort of flu-like symptoms. Like I wasn't really sure what was going on, but it was kind of wild because it would be like every Friday I would start getting dizzy in the afternoon, and then like miraculously Sunday afternoon I would feel better. But I'd spend all weekend basically in bed. And then, by Sunday I was fine, quote unquote. But eventually those symptoms got so bad after about 6 months, I ended up fully burning out. So my adrenals completely gave out, and I was basically bedridden for a extended period of time. So I wanted to understand why my body and my mind weren't working together. Like, why were the signals not communicating? So, since then, probably been about 12, 15 years now, I created essentially my own PhD in like trauma healing and burnout recovery. Read like hundreds of academic journals and studies, gained over 1,000 hours of yoga teachers certifications, and then like you mentioned, I've been really blessed. I've gotten to study with a lot of leaders in the space. Peter Levine's somatic experiencing, creative attachment theory, air with Diane Poole Heller, V. Kane. You can just there's a long list of. But what I realized though is it was in yoga classes and on long walks, sort of in that recovery period where I found that I would get my best ideas. Like it felt like my head was the most clear, and I felt most connected to myself and didn't really have any anxiety or overwhelm. And so I created this really simple like journaling and movement system, and I began to just share it with friends and some clients that I knew might be receptive, because I was also doing a little bit of one-on-one coaching at the time as well. And I found out really quickly that it could like predictably and reliably help people understand their own sort of anxiety and imposter syndrome and recover 5-10 times faster, because we were using a science-based process to get the mind and the body and the actions like all working together in like 15 minutes. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you fast forward to 2021, and actually you and I were living together there at this time, which is kind of fun. Like
Yeah.
towards the end of COVID, and I was working with a group of senior leaders, or maybe this was just after. I don't remember exactly the time, but I was working with a group of senior leaders at Snapchat basically large tech company, Santa Monica. And the client, I was working with 8 senior leaders, and they were coming out of a session. And what was so wild was I remember one of them coming out kind of like a bear coming out of hibernation, and he was like, "Where did you learn this?" And I was like, I don't know, I've kind of Frankenstein together a bunch of different systems that I've learned over the years and put together this system. And I've been sharing it, with like thousands of groups and leaders and different individuals over the past, almost at that point, had been about 12 years or so. And he looked at me, and he actually had like disgust in his face, and he was like, that's a shame. And I was like, what are you talking? Why is that a shame? And he said, well, that's a shame because there should be an army of people doing this. You shouldn't be the only one.
Mm.
So I was like, got it. Okay. I thought he was like, yeah, I was very confused about the way he said it, but yeah, that was really all I needed to hear. That was really my wake up call. I guess like on the hero's journey. And I know that you talk a lot about the hero's journey, Tim. I just think of, like, that was my call to adventure. That was the moment for me that was like, okay, I need to start sharing this with other people. This method that I've been doing now and have been supporting other people in creating results for themselves. So I thought, yeah, what if I take my understanding of sort of like the high performance coaching industry and my sort of trauma informed, like body based background, simplify, streamline, systematize, like as I was seeing it, the whole somatic coaching process, which is exactly what I did. And we called it body based breakthrough, or B3.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
It's so cool to see you in some of the genesis of that. I guess not even the genesis, but the culmination of that work really coming out and being birthed. It's been awesome to kind of watch you build and grow that over recent years. Yeah, I think I want to zoom in a little bit. Kind of at the start of your story, you really talked about and how that affected you. And I know
Mm-hmm.
many people get familiar with the hustle culture and things like that really that happen in the startup world. And
Mm-hmm.
anytime you're running a big business, running a big community, there are a lot of things that can pull your attention. And I'd like to look, I guess, really at 2 things. One, like, what did it look like to come out of that when you did it?
Mm.
And also, looking back, if you were talking to your former self, what would you have told them in that moment?
Oh, Tim, that's such a great question. Well, you know what? It looked really simple. I think there's like this consciousness of the hustle culture that's like, I did. Like, I think people are really obsessed with like, Andrew Huberman and all of the protocols and all of the science backed, all the things. And all of that's gorgeous. And I love science too. And I think that because of like, the marketing engine that is social media and all these things, we can get really obsessed with like the complexity of it and like making it like really fancy. But I know for myself, and not everyone's like this. For myself, the more complex it gets, the more difficult it is to keep the thing going. So I find that, and then what happens is then I drop it, and then a bunch of guilt and shame, like piles on, and then I feel like a horrible human, and then I feel like I almost go further backwards, sort of like a yo-yo effect. Kind of like dieting can be sometimes, for some folks. So I found that for me, it was actually just keeping it dead simple. Like to the point where, I don't know if Alex Hermosi says the thing about, I feel like you might have even shared this with me at some point, Tim, like make your offer so simple, people would feel stupid saying no or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and that's how I feel about the like getting off the addiction to intensity that I had, was like getting off that train was like, how do I make this alternative way of living for myself feel so simple that I would feel silly not doing it? So it was like taking walks, like just taking like 10, 15-minute walks, taking yeah, like doing the Pomodoro technique and not living religiously to it, but just, like actually giving some time away from like my computer screen for even just like 10 minutes. And actually, I think you do this actually quite well, Tim, like getting out in like nature and yeah, even just like poking your head out and like getting into the sun for 5 minutes every once. And so I think it's like it's the really simple things done consistently that actually make that have the biggest cumulative effect.
Walking barefoot in grass. That to me
Yeah.
is
I
that
mean, that's the
simple thing.
thing.
Yeah.
I think like, with social media and stuff, I think people try to do all these sexy things like red light therapy and um, cold exposure and all the different, and all those things are wonderful. I don't think any of them are wrong or bad, but I think the thing is finding something that feels sustainable for you that you can do like literally every day that isn't difficult to do. I think, if anything takes more than 60 minutes, I probably can't do it every day. I once had I had a personal trainer once that was like, dude, I'd rather you be in here for like 30 minutes every day and not even break a sweat than come in here once on Saturday for 4 hours and like tear your hamstring because you're like going so hard trying to make up for the whole rest of the week that you weren't in. And that's really stuck with me. I'm actually like so grateful to that trainer because it's just become like a philosophy of my life is like, how do I make things actually a little bit more boring because then my life consistently gets
Yeah.
easier and easier and better. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's
No, it
like
does.
the
I
color
think
of
it
life. Yeah.
yeah, you're kind of saying it's the small consistent things that really matter. And it's far more that consistency and the improvement over time of something is always going to outweigh one big flash and it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the compounding. Like, what do they say about wealth? Like, building wealth isn't sexy either. It's like compounding over time,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
slow and consistently, like investing.
Like
I'm definitely not an expert on that, but
everybody wants the magic pill, right? But it's,
yeah.
it's food and water and, exercise that's going to get you everything that you really want,
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
and another thing too, and this is I feel like not talked about, especially in like startup culture or like building community and stuff, is like so many of us are so obsessed with, and I myself very much so am in this group, is like obsessed with my work. I love what I'm doing and I love the people who I'm supporting and I love my community that I'm building and nurturing all the time. And I also have to remember that I also am a person who has needs outside of that and like I need like loved ones and I need community and I need like people in my like in the immediacy of like my circle. And I feel very blessed to call you one of those people, Tim, like people that I
yeah.
get to see on a consistent basis
Hmm.
who yeah, I can just like shoot the shit with that we're not talking about business and that ironically getting those like human breaks away from the humans that I do business with, it's like it allows me to go back to those humans that I do business with and feel even more refreshed and rejuvenated around it. So
Yeah,
I
this
don't
really
know.
kind of leads right into one of my next questions I had, which is talking about that sort of connection between personal nervous system regulation and your community or your work in that case. And I think you're right. It's very easy for us who are so obsessed with what we're doing, who are impact driven, who want to really create good in the world. It is
Yeah.
so easy to get caught up in like, all
Doing
right,
it
I'm just gonna
24/7.
burn everything of my time for
Yeah.
this mission and it's a go and it's gonna happen and nothing else matters. And this is not true, right? And
Yeah.
finding the right regulation to really take care of yourself. And I know
Yeah.
that's been a journey for me in a big way. And so yeah,
Same.
I'd love to hear your perspective. Dive a bit more into that perspective, both how you've seen it, in your own community that you've built,
Mm.
and for like the people you're working with. What has kind of been the results or the ways in which, people who are personally going through that nervous system regulation and
Yeah.
things like really affect the community that they or business that they're building.
Right. That's such a great question. What sparks for me, and this is so fascinating, is like I feel like if you're like a mom and pop shop selling fish in the 90s on some like main street in middle America or, wherever, or like, in Europe or something, whatever, you could probably like do all of your work in the day and feel very confident confident that you actually did all of the work and then still have half the day to go like play with your friends and like go talk to the neighbors and go like make a nice meal and like do sport or whatever, and still feel very confident that you covered all of your bases in like getting your work done and feeling like just very accomplished and confident that like nothing was missing. But now in 2020, like you literally could work 27 hours a day nonstop at full efficiency, full productivity, and there will still be somebody that worked 28 hours that day somehow, even though those 4 hours don't even exist. It's like, so there is just there. I think that we're coming to something like rounding a corner societally to say that like I literally won't finish everything that I could possibly finish today. Like I just won't. And so I need to come back a little bit more towards my humanity and recognize, okay, like what am I capable of in a very humane way accomplishing in a workday? And then also taking care of my human that needs support and needs nourishment and needs whatever it needs.
That means, I think part of that too is just like, because we're so connected, requests can come from everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, you talk about a mom and pop shop, it's like, well, whoever can come to my front door are the people who have, some sort of lien on my time,
Right.
And
Yeah.
then now it's like, oh, I can just shoot an email, shoot a text, and I can, if I'm not guarding against notifications and all those things that just like naturally start to pop up, then boom, it's instant claim on my time that just really like stacks up.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, everyone is on the other end of that is used to a culture where I'm gonna get a response immediately. I'm gonna get a response the same day, and it just that I can definitely. I know for myself, like it's loaded those things up, and I had to get really clear about when I would respond to things and focus on. I mean, I used to talk a lot. You'll love this throwback, but I used to use the words "clear the deck."
Clear the deck.
Like that was kind of always a mold back in the day. But I mean, really, you gotta stop letting things put stuff on your deck, and that's that's definitely a journey in saying no to the things that don't really fit. And how would you recommend people? I know you kind of do this a little bit with Body Based Breakthrough, but like really tap into the wisdom of your body in order to kind of hold space for you to make those tougher decisions or learn how to say no to things.
Yeah. It's interesting, even as you were talking about like people constantly having, a lien on our time and all these things. I actually started to notice like my stomach was getting a little tight, just even hearing you talk about it, because that's so real. And feeling that like dynamic tension that I feel about that all the time of like social media and people reaching out to me or sort of this like need that I should be reaching out to hundreds of thousands of people every day to buy my services and all the different things. And that's data. Like that's information. Yeah. So I'm just like aware of that, I mean, I think that's like the muscle for many of us that has atrophied. In the nervous system work, we talk a lot about that there are 5 channels of experience. And this comes from Peter Levine and his somatic experiencing work. He talks about sensation, image or like impression, which can be like a metaphor. Like sometimes, I can talk about that, working 24/7 and I see an exasperated factory worker or something, I see an image in my head. That's image. Behavior impulse, which is just like a natural impulse of the body, like to run or to jump or to kick or to punch or like, but just those very knee jerk, like my body just has a physical response to something. Certainly affect, like emotion, and then thinking, meaning, belief, meaning making, story making, whatever, all the normal thinking stuff. And those are like all channels of experience that really have data that has like information for me. So in B3 in Body Based Breakthrough, we call it somatic signature, which is to say that like Tim has a unique signature, I have a unique signature, we all have a unique signature. And so anytime that I think about like a part of my business, or as like a very real world example is like if I'm thinking about like working with a client. I know you and I, just before we hopped on, we were talking about a client that you were working with. And it's like I can kind of tap into all those different channels of experience, and I can really ask myself about that client in regards to that client. What do I notice in sensation? Do I feel like a light warmth in my chest, or in my belly? There's, maybe there's like a spaciousness, or does it start to feel kind of clenchy, or tight or heavy? All of these kinds of things. I don't even want to say what's good or bad. I think it's up to the individual. Like maybe they want a tight stomach. I don't know. Maybe that feels good. Um, but I think for all of us, we get to make those decisions. So, but I think because the world moves so fast, we don't usually take a lot of time to like recognize the sensation or the emotion. And some of us, I'll just say it, Tim. I don't, I think especially as a dude, I didn't ever think that having emotions was okay. So I think at some point I kind of joke, and this is like real. This is like real time for Matthew. For me, is like, I feel like as a kid, there's like this faucet of emotions that your body is like, like the faucet's on and the tap is running. And then if at some point you're just kind of told by parents or society or whatever, like, hey, stop having those, then you just kind of turn off the faucet. And so like currently actively in my life, I'm actually focusing on like, what am I feeling right now? Like it's literally become a meditation. I'm just literally like, what am I actually feeling right now? And
Yeah.
man, it's wild. I feel like a 5-year-old Tim. I'm like, I don't know what I'm feeling. Like what I've been recently studying with myself is I'm like, I guess I'm anxious most of the time, but that's about all. Like I have moments where I'm like, oh, I feel pride. I feel like a little bit of happiness, but noticing that like these different channels, some of them are more refined, and then others, it feels like we're like totally in the dark.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been there's a another friend of mine who does some he's kind of exploring building a model around kind of the body wisdom stuff as well. And what I hear from him too is this idea of like this is kind of a practice that I've been doing in a similar way to what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like really focusing in on one emotion, neutrally, like not giving it any positive or negative,
Yeah.
and then just like watching what that turns into, like
Ooh, yeah.
what is like the emotion that comes up as a result of like giving that emotion attention, you know,
Yeah.
and
So good.
so that's kind of been a little bit of a the practice that I've been doing a little bit lately of like,
Dude.
okay, if I'm feeling like tap in, what am I feeling right now?
Right.
Trying hard to stay, do it without judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and then also noticing that I'm trying too hard and kind of relaxing
Yeah,
that,
totally. Yeah.
and just seeing how it shifts and changes in the
Yeah.
body. And it's like you learn a lot, and you see there's a lot of I think a lot of our surface emotions are so stacked on
Yeah.
top of other emotions that we're really not even seeing,
Yeah.
and each of those can really uncover new little layers and elements that all like twisted into like what our experience right now is
Yeah.
in our body. And you mentioned kind of the tightness and the it not being good or bad, and it's like, but it's like you said earlier, a data point, right?
It's
So
all data.
so like
Yeah.
if you are working with the client and you keep checking in, it's every time you check in, it's clinch,
Yeah.
clinch, 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 clinch.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's
Yeah.
there's definitely a problem.
Yeah. Well, I can say even in personal relationship, like I had a girlfriend and who, I've definitely talked about her before. I remember every time she would come home from work and I would hear the door open, my stomach would drop. Like, oh shit. Like actual dread, and like, oh shit, this is about to be horrible again. Like again, it's about to be horrible. So that was a really good data point for me. That, like clearly,
Once
even if
again,
my
consistency
mind,
matters.
yeah, like even if my mind is trying to make it work, that like clearly my body is like very intelligently letting me know that this is not working. I mean, and it's helpful just because some people like statistics. So our nervous system receives 12 million stimuli per second. It's like Like our nervous system is tracking the temperature in the room, my heartbeat, my breath cycle. It's like tracking where all of my viscera and, do I need to like defecate? Like, it's tracking all of these things. It's also tracking the tone of your voice. And like, there's so many million, there's literally 12 million things. And then our conscious mind only processes like 40 to 60 bits per second. So 12 million, 40 to 60. So there's like such a massive gap in what I'm consciously aware of and what I'm unconsciously aware of. And so that's why we check in with the body. It's not because like I care about some woo-woo floofy, like let's talk to and that's great too. I love all that stuff. But for me, I come from Wisconsin where we're incredibly practical and pragmatic. And so I always just think about like, what's the most practical thing here? So when I'm presenting this work to companies and to organizations, it's actually like, what's the data that's going to allow us to make more and like better informed decisions for our teams, certainly for us as individuals, but for our teams and then sometimes for the organization at a higher level, like on the whole. So systems, like literally systems of like, how are we organizing our teams? Like is it a vertical or is it a very like, what am I trying to say, horizontal team? Like all of these
How do you
things.
work that in? I'm just curious. Like, how do you work that into the process of a business with your
Yeah,
methodology?
like body-based breakthrough.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll do sessions. So we'll do a group session. So sometimes I'll work with like a marketing team and they'll come in with a headline of like, what do we want to do for Q3 in marketing? And then we'll do a body-based breakthrough session. And so we'll sort of ask all these different questions around those different channels of experience and we'll see what each individual comes up with. And then we whiteboard it and we just go like, what did you get, Bill? What did you get, Jan? What did you get, Tim? And then we'll put it up on the board and then we'll sort of then start to come at it together and figure out what kind of initiatives we want to run as a result of it.
Gotcha.
So it's like we kind of go to the body and then, so we joke with our practitioners, we call it like going on a date with your body. So we go on a date with our bodies and then we take it to the mind. Because we're not trying to like leave the mind out. It's
Right.
like it's incredibly important. And ultimately that's where we drive from. But I think it's valuable to like dip into like what's the information of the body telling us. Because sometimes people will come up with decisions and then like leaders will go like, I got such a no inside, as we were talking about that particular idea. So that helps inform the decisions.
Yeah, I love that. Coming from a place that has all the 60 million bits of information. What you said,
12
12 million.
million, yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's so wild. I mean, and the other cool thing that a lot of people don't talk about or probably wouldn't even know is that 80% of the information between the body and the brain, 80% is body speaking to brain, 20% is brain speaking to body. So
Yeah.
it's kind of wild. So meaning like most of the information is actually, body up to brain. So even when we do this kind of work with somatics or body based stuff, it's called bottom up processing versus top down processing. So like
Yeah.
traditional talk therapy is top down. Yeah.
Right. Coming from what's inside first.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to come from what's inside first. Because
Yeah.
the talk therapy is great, it's really helpful. But if it continuously doesn't give me the results that I want, that means that there's something in the way, and it's usually the body has something to say. So I'm less of like the Nike just do it, like David Goggins, just force your way through this, make it work. And that very much so, you've known me long enough, Tim. That very much so, I think that used to very much so be how I operated or what I tried to do. But that was for me the precursor of my burnout. And like that was where it always came from, was from forcing my body to do things that it really was not actually wanting to do.
Yeah. How do you feel about burnout now, or like notice it before it happened?
Yeah. Well, I just notice it so much sooner. So like burnout could never happen for me anymore because I'm aware of it so much sooner. It's like getting a fine-tuned sensitivity. It's like antenna, or like having a sixth sense or something. It's like I can just see it so much sooner in on the process. Of like, I've been like really running hard lately. And so I can usually tell, okay, it's probably time, like, I need to take a break. Like, I need to take a day off, or I need to even just take like an afternoon.
Yeah.
Um, and again, like nothing extravagant. I think people have these crazy ideas that it's like you need to go to the spa and you need to like take a month-long vacation and like all that. And that's all great. Like I think all
That
this
sounds fun. So.
this stuff's awesome, yeah. But I also, it's funny. It's like consistency over intensity.
Yeah.
Like what I was saying earlier is like, how can I consistently take short breaks? Earlier today, actually, I had a really intensive meeting this morning, which was fantastic. But then right after, I actually did I don't know that I need to go into all the details, but I did a very specific, like 30-minute meditation where I was like, it was a laying down meditation, and it was a very like deep rest meditation. And that was so perfect for me to then be able to like hop up and do another call and then get on with you. And like now I feel like I actually have a lot of good energy to get through the rest of the day. Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff. It's those mini breaks throughout the day. And you could even, I mean, shoot, you could even probably do mini breaks every 10 minutes, just like even a couple breaths. It's those renewal, and then using energy and then renewing and then using energy and renewing. So I guess it's
Well,
like how tight do you want to get those cycles?
yeah, they say even really like focus can't really last more than 90 minutes, right? So,
No, yeah.
yeah,
Honestly,
like,
it's focus is horrible over 90 after
mhm,
90 minutes. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah, working. I love that idea of just like, yeah, just take a couple breaths,
Yeah.
even every 10 minutes, just kind of little reminder, take a breath, Or for those of you who have checklists, every time you check something off your checklist, take a breath. Like I think that's a really good. It
Ooh,
feels like
I
a really
love
good
that.
habit chain,
I love that. No, you're right,
Yeah.
Tim, because you're right. It's actually a real reward. It's like when I check that off, I can take a breath and just like notice what I'm experiencing for just a second, and then I can hop right back in. Yeah, yeah. Or even do I need to pivot? Given what I'm feeling, do I need to like pivot and actually like work on something else on the to-do list rather than what I maybe had? I think that's the big thing that I'm learning in my work and that feels kind of scary sometimes to like traditional business, which is that it's a little bit more of like emergent, like what's arising. Um, when it's like bottom up, because top down is very structured, it's very linear, it's very like, we're going to do this,
Yeah.
this. Whereas I think with the bottom up, it's a little bit more like we're going to do this, and then maybe we'll do this, and then we'll do this. And so it's like it doesn't always feel as linear or logical, and we tend to live in a pretty linear and logical world. So it's the editing phase takes a little bit longer
Yeah.
when you live in that
Gotcha.
way. But it's like a much more fulfilling way of doing life. Because then I don't feel like I'm um there isn't like there's like less drag. Like I'm thinking of like aerodynamics. Like I feel like I'm way
Oh,
more aerodynamic car because I'm not like fighting or gritting my teeth to get through things as much anymore.
yeah. I'm getting a visual kind. I mean, just like with what we do in the website stuff we build, it's like, you know, it's very easy to think about it as being like, all right, we can do this, and we do this, and we do this, and we do this. But the truth is that there's a lot of little elements that have to all be ready that like
Yes.
sort of spark and initiate everything to happen, and then all of a sudden the whole thing's done.
That.
And it's like, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. I love that.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah, you talked about like how you kind of help executives make decisions and how you've worked with those companies to do that. How have you seen like what have you seen with the impact if you or your leadership, if you have a little bit larger company, like what impact does that have on the organization as a whole when people step into that kind of work?
Engagement. That's the biggest thing, honestly. Like
Did you
from
say
an
engagement?
engagement. Yeah. From like an HR perspective, like people are just way more excited about doing the work. So productivity like just goes through the roof. Because people feel more aligned with the mission, and like what they're trying to do. I think a lot of times we just lose sight of why we're doing what we're doing. And so when I can kind of start to line that up with a team, it just feels so much more clear why we're doing this work. And I don't know, this is a little bit more nuanced and probably like maybe a little wooey, but I think that the work's just better. I think it
Yeah.
just like it comes from a different place because people are excited to do the work versus people are
Mhm.
like, I hate that I'm doing this right now.
The
I just feel like
energy
the
of
end
doing it. Yeah.
product is just better. I don't know. The reason I say that sounds a little woo is just because I think we anecdotally kind of know that, but it's not really like, yeah, I don't know how you quantify that or something, but it's something that qualitatively I think people like can feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm excited to do something, I'm going to focus more on it. If I'm
Yeah,
not excited, I'm going to be looking around and saying, "Oh, be distracted by
yeah,
other things." It's
yeah,
just like I'm going to get that pure energy. Focus on creating a really great product when I'm excited about it.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, I see a lot of similarities there too with people's communities and like I know a
Yeah.
lot of people who I know you've done some stuff at events and things like
Hmm.
that before as well. But I think as community leaders, I think we forget that we're also inspiring our community along the same mission that we're on.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, I think I'm just seeing how that could equate, I guess, in this moment to them. Like if you can really pull those people into touch with their own bodies while they do the transformation work that you're trying to do them, how much bigger of an impact that you can
Yeah.
make on them and how much quicker of an impact you can make
Yes.
on them. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're moving into, and I'm not trying to be a futurist here. You're the futurist. You're really good at that, Tim. But I feel like where we're headed is like it's a really interesting time as
Yeah.
community curators because I don't think that people are coming for gurus anymore. I think like people want to be a part of communities because they want to be around like-minded peers. And even the people that they're learning from, I don't think that they want to pedestalize people as much anymore. I think it's more of like, how do we all do this together? And people who like can curate good, just like good groups of people and empower people to just be their best selves. I don't know.
Yeah.
That seems to be what works the best at this point. And so, like, yeah, I'm not interested in creating a bunch of like cookie cutter Matthews, like robots of what
Right.
I do. I want to give people, with our 3 month certification, I want to give, and we're working on a level 2 and a level 3 as well. Like, I just want to give people the skeleton. Like, I want to give people the bones, and I want to say, like, and I want to actually support you to put the muscles on it. Like, I'm going to like use my brain to help support you to do your best thinking and like let's create the best version of what this looks like for you
Yeah. Yeah.
and your expression in the world and what that looks like. And I just my sense is like that's where community's going in general. I just like I don't know. I just don't think that the cookie cutter stuff works anymore. Or like people are interested in as much anymore.
Yeah, I think people we've talked about this before. I think that we're all as a species developing incredible bullshit meters.
The bullshit
you know
meter. Yeah, that's it.
and we're not here for anything but truth and growth and people that truly love and care about us and create a good life together, great community together. I think
Yeah.
that community aspect, having been strained, I think, by everything going on online and everything like that in the past couple decades, I think it's just it's time. People are craving that, trying to figure out how to live in a modern world and still have deep connection,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I'm
um
kind of curious if we're gonna,
yeah.
I mean, not to get all futurist here, I'm kind of curious if we're gonna actually go. I don't think we can ever go completely back from globalization, right? Like
No.
unless the internet completely goes down, which
Yeah, it'd be an end of
like
the world event
right.
before.
But I do have a curiosity how much like hyper localism and maybe not even geographically, but like in like a niched sense, like yeah, how much people are gonna be like really reliant on relationship and yeah, to your point, I think people have gotten kind of like screwed over, trying
Yeah.
to like, like buying into good like just good marketing. But I think when you hear from a good friend like No, this is really good, Tim. I seriously, you should check this out. Like
Right.
that, I think goes so much further. Yeah, I'm not saying like marketing's dead or any other. Like marketing is still very alive and well, and will continue to be alive and well. But I think that word of mouth is starting to mean even more than it ever used to. I don't know.
I think there's so many options right now that the number one reason, like personalization, is becoming more and more important
Yeah,
from a futurist standpoint.
yeah,
That personalization is becoming so important. With all the big data that is already out there, people start to get used to. It's just like on Facebook. My feed will show me exactly what I normally look at,
hmm
and it's hidden underneath the surface there. But the same goes for everything else. I see, you and I have talked a lot about this because we have had differing opinions over the years. But I think that where we're really going, we have to find the way for that technology to empower and uplift us
yeah,
and not shy away from it,
yeah,
and because it isn't going
yeah.
anywhere. So,
Tim, I actually agree with you now. I think I've
yeah,
come around on this. Yeah.
yeah. I remember I remember
Oh
conversations
yeah, I used to be such
of
a
this
Luddite.
before. Yeah, yeah.
And now I'm like, no, I just don't want to do it. But I do
Right.
want people like you, Tim, who and people like your team who do these things because it's
Yeah,
going to be important, especially with AI. I mean, my goodness.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the amount of yeah. I don't want to start. That's a whole
That's a
a
whole
whole
other
other
episode.
interview, and we
Yeah.
could probably probably go through that. I do have a couple more questions I'd love to just
Yeah.
get some quick info on from you before we wrap up here and before we move into a whole other episode of conversation. But like with the like somatic practices and
hmm
stuff, how can people bring those things into their community without it feeling like forced or strange, like say like
Mm.
in like you've done in the larger business world and stuff like that?
That's such a good question, Tim, because I think it does require a level of buy-in because the body is like somatics. Soma is the Latin for body, and somatics comes from somatikos, the Greek, just meaning like the living aware body. So that's when we say somatics, it means the living aware body and like
Okay.
aliveness in the body. Um, I think the body is such an intimate thing, even when it's in regards to our own body and like sharing that with other people.
Hmm.
So I guess it does kind of require a little bit of buy-in from people. But the one thing I will say is that it's becoming trendy enough that I think
Yeah.
that people are a little bit more open to it than they ever would be. I will say, like, I think breath work has like Wim Hof has like really
Mm.
just like created an incredible industry around like starting to go into the body in those ways. I think meditation is way more widely accepted. What did I say? Wildly accepted. Widely accepted.
Probably both.
Both. But yeah, I mean, personally, I always think like gentler approaches are like a better way in with people. Because sometimes, like, people, I mean, we didn't even talk about this, but like the wild, cathartic, people are foaming at the mouth and shaking, and all of that stuff is great. People have big, powerful experiences, just like when they go on medicine journeys and all of these things, and they're all
Yeah.
great. And I think the thing that has people come back to doing these practices and finding safety in their own bodies and things is the gentler things, like the gentle introduction to these things.
Yeah.
To where it's like, yeah, this feels doable. This feels like okay. I don't feel like I'm in danger or anything.
Right.
I don't know if that answers anything, but like I think gentle breath work is great. I think even just like short things, like I don't think it needs to be when we're talking about with our organizations or with our communities. I don't think it needs to be, hey everybody, let's meditate for 20 minutes. It's like no, like 2 or 3 breaths. Actually, I will show you one. Actually, this we can do this together if you want, Tim. If you want to
Sure.
go get a little wild here, idly wild. It's called orientation. I don't know if you and I have ever done this or not, but it's
Yeah.
just allowing your eyes to kind of like take a walk about the room and just like noticing as you kind of look around your room, like just what colors or shapes or even textures start to kind of stand out. You look out, some people, if you have a window as you're watching this podcast, you can take a look at what's outside of your window. Say if you're driving, please make sure to keep your, eyes on the road. as you just look around, you just start to kind of notice what sticks out. And what this does is this tells my brain, I am here in this space at this time, and there aren't any like immediate threats in my environment. So it actually helps to sort of like, I don't want to say downregulate, but it helps to kind of settle us a little bit. Like even those subtle anxieties of like, is something going to jump out? Like none of that's there because I can literally see there is nothing around. So giving ourselves permission to like look around and just kind of receive the environment. Can be really helpful. So that's something you can even do. Yeah, at your organization or, if you work online with people, you can just invite people to do orientation. And that's sight. That can also be sound. That can be temperature, like the sensation of like the temperature in the room. Sometimes I even like think of like light. Sometimes it's like too bright in a room or it's too dark in a room. So just inviting people to kind of like get cozy, to get comfortable in the room. Actually
Get
goes
into
a
their
really
five
long way.
senses so they can reach their sixth.
No, actually, yes, Tim.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of wild. That's actually crazy that you say that. That is exactly what it is. Yeah. I mean, that's sixth sense for so many of us of intuition and whatever else you want to call it. I think that like there needs to be a foundation of safety and like
Yeah.
comfort. Well, maybe not comfort as in like I'm like sleeping on a feather pillow or something, but some level of like yeah, I'm okay right now.
Yeah.
Because I think when we're in
Bypass the
survival,
lizard
there's no
brain.
intuition going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Bypass the lizard brain, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no like fear response online.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. Is that helpful? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I think that's it's a really great takeaway at the end to kind
Yeah.
of to wrap up this conversation. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think like yeah, I'd love to you just tell anyone where they can find out more about you, how they can follow
Yeah.
you, how they can kind of who you work with, and
Yeah.
if they're a fit, how they can check you out.
Yeah. Bodybased breakthrough.com or at bodybased breakthrough on all the platforms. Primarily, we're on Instagram. We work a lot with wellness professionals. So people that are looking to go to the next step or go deeper into their way of working with clients. Could be health coaches, could be yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, but could be life coaches, could be relationship coaches, but people that want to support their clients in a trauma-informed way and really understand science in a way that's accessible, that they can share with their clients, and also people that want to work one-on-one or in groups. So our method is really cool in that obviously I've been very blessed in getting to share it with a lot of tech companies and healthcare companies and different things is because I can share it in groups. And our clients have been very blessed to get to do that with their clients. So we're in yoga studios and Pilates and wellness studios and all over the place.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for joining me. It's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed
Yay.
getting to travel that road, the conversational road with you.
Yeah.
So it's really fun. Thank you for all your. I mean, those are some great insights there, just on
Thanks,
really
Tim.
getting in touch with your body, and I love watching what you're doing and continuing to do as you grow and expand. It's having known you for a while. It's really cool to see that happening. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you again for all our listeners out there. Together, let's light the way to the future.
So.